Hey everybody, I'm Zach.
And I'm Jesse, and you're watching the Patreon bonus stories. Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the cool studio. I cooled it down at 7 o'clock this morning, so it's an actually regular temperature right now. So we're not sweating. Usually by halfway through the show in the summer, we are like super... you do?
I'm sweating.
Oh, okay, but not like we were the past few weeks. It's a normal temperature.
Is it? I feel like it's warmed up in here.
It has.
These lights warm
these
up
lights are really
the room
warm.
a lot.
But
I'm gonna check. I'm gonna check the temperature.
Okay.
I'm gonna be right.
You know, we have a Wi-Fi enabled thermostat
That doesn't
connect to the Wi-Fi very well.
77 degrees.
Okay, that's better than the other week when it was 83.
Better than 83, but it is still warm in here. By the end of the show, it's gonna be 83.
It started at 72.
Guaranteed.
I came in, I was chilly.
Great. All this hot air. All right.
All right.
Speaking of hot air.
Let's get going.
Okay.
This is a story that I wanted to talk about on the main show, but it's got a lot of nuance to it. It's got a lot of polarizing politics to it. I don't want you guys to feel polarized either. It's a tough one to talk about, but I feel like we got to share some interesting facts. Did you hear about the Bernie Sanders' latest proposal? He tweeted about this. He tweeted last week that all 467 U.S. billionaires should be taxed 60% of what they gained from March 18th until August 3rd. And so he does this a lot. I'm not saying that, like, he did say he's going to make this a proposal. He's probably one of the most prolific lawmakers. He proposes bills all the time. He's so left-leaning that most of his bills don't go anywhere. So I'm not saying this is, like, definitely going to become a law. But I was intrigued when I heard this because I was like, wait a minute. Gains from March until August. So he wants to tax them on their paper gains. And I think that's an important point to make here. So on Dave Lee's video, if you go check that out, we'll put it in the links of the show notes below. Dave Lee did a video on what this could mean for Elon, and you should really go watch it because he does all the math. But the long and the short of it is that if Bernie's plan became law, Elon could end up being forced to sell as much as all of his Tesla stock, depending on what the share price is now, to pay for this new tax. So let me explain why. So if Bernie's law became a law, and the 60% tax went into effect for all of the paper gains from March until August, then Elon would have to go to the bank, right, get some cash to pay this tax. And he has no cash. All of his money is in Tesla stock.
Right.
So he would have to sell the stock to pay for it. Now, depending on what the stock price is on the day that this law went into effect, it would determine how much stock he'd have to sell. By today's numbers, he'd have to sell about half of it. So let's keep in mind, Elon owns about 20% of the company now. He would become a 10% owner if this law went into effect to pay the tax.
Okay.
Which,
a big whoop. I mean, like,
well,
so let's say, who cares?
Well, here's why you should care.
Right.
He owns enough stock now that it would be very hard to override his wishes for the company. For instance, Facebook is 51% owned by Mark Zuckerberg, so you can never override his wishes. But with Elon, if you took all of his friends, his buddies, he can probably muster 51%. But if he sold half of his holdings, that would mean that there's a chance that if something came along and some, Tencent and some other holders of the stock wanted to do something that he didn't, he may not be able to stop them. That's a big deal because Tesla's trying to do things that most people in the, the financial world aren't interested in doing.
Right. And Elon specifically, he is not your typical billionaire.
No.
I mean, I was reading the other day, Jeff Bezos sold $3 billion worth of Amazon the other day, which means that he now has $3 billion in cash. I mean, maybe not paper cash, but, in a bank account somewhere in the world. And, like, that is not Elon's thing.
No,
right?
he has said repeatedly that he wants to build up the valuation of Tesla so that his net worth can be used to get us to Mars. He knows that he's going to need thousands of starships. And even though he owns SpaceX, he can't tell them to go build them without paying for them. And so he's going to need billions and billions of dollars to build a fleet of starships to go to Mars. Now, I just want to stop right there. If we asked the U.S. government to do this, we would have to rely on Congress and, everyone going, well, I don't know, let's just spend the money here on
I
Earth.
think we need a Starship manufacturing facility
in Georgia.
And I want one in Delaware.
Right.
And we want one up here in Colorado. And
Right.
if there isn't one in Washington, then I'm going to filibuster. All of this stuff, it's exactly what happened during the regular old space race.
Right.
that's why a lot of the rocket manufacturing stuff is very inefficient, and a lot of people just go like, wow, rocketry is really hard. Whereas you go down to Boca Chica, they have like 3 shipping containers stacked on top of each other with a tent put on top, and they're building a rocket under the damn thing.
Right.
So that really shows the difference between, big government and small lean businesses. And no one has ever done this.
No.
There hasn't really been
Never in the history of
a
Earth.
single person who was like, we're going to go to Mars and I am going to make it happen.
Right.
That's never happened before. We've barely even had, like, when we were discovering the New World. Sure, you had, Columbus who's a jerk, right? Obviously. But he was like, I'm going to go find a way to India. And what did he do? He went to the kings and he was like, you guys want a way to India? I'm going to go check it out for you, but you got to pay me to get there. I need some ships. And they were like, he was turned away, right, by like all the kings.
Yeah,
I don't know how much of this is true because I learned
Queen
it in school.
Isabella was the only one who said sure.
The only one stupid enough to. Oh, you can make it to India? The world's smaller than we thought it was.
Well, let's get back to the proposals.
Back to the proposal here. Right.
So Bernie tweeted out a bunch of things, and normally I would have just probably ignored it. He tweets out a lot of these kind of things, but then he singled out Elon, and so I just want to get to this tweet here. He said, while 40 million Americans face eviction, Elon Musk has nearly tripled his wealth over the past 4 months and now has a net worth of more than $70 billion. And so this tax that Bernie's talking about would tax Elon along with 500 other billionaires, and it would cost Elon about $27.5 billion. And so my first question is, why? Like, why all of a sudden are you changing the playing field? Why are you talking about doing a reverse, like, okay, go back to August and pay this tax when no one knew about that?
On paper games.
On paper games. I think if you're going to propose some kind of law, give everyone a chance to know what the law is going to be so they can react to it.
And this is why I don't think that Bernie is, like, deadly serious about it. I know that he's going to propose it as a law, but I think that this is the way that you're going to get press and get people thinking about
and I am not
billionaires.
Yes, but what I'm saying is don't lump Elon in with the rest of the billionaires, because here's my argument. Elon would be spending those billions of dollars right here on Earth, first of all. He's not going to be spending it on Mars. Like, people are like, oh, you're just going to spend it on Mars. No, it gets spent here on Earth. He's going to pay thousands.
There's no one on Mars that you can wire the money to.
No, exactly.
And there's no wire to Mars to get the money there.
Exactly. The money gets spent here on thousands of hardworking engineers, rocket scientists, dreamers, to build the spaceships for our journey to inhabit Mars. So even if you don't agree with them, even if you're like, that's a stupid thing to do, they're going to be spending it here on Earth. That's the first part. So he's going to be helping the economy. All those people are now going to have jobs and incomes, and we're going to build things right here in America. That's my first part. The second thing is he's trying to do something noble. He's trying to do something that governments should do. He's trying to ensure that humanity has a way to succeed if the Earth should ever have a catastrophe, global warming, a comet.
Some kind of pandemic.
Exactly.
Oh, gee,
right.
wouldn't that suck if there was some kind of global pandemic threatening the entire population of the world? Right.
Pretty cheap thing here. The government doesn't have to spend a penny on it. Elon's going to do it himself. So instead of lumping him in with all the billionaires, my proposal was going to be to make an amendment to say, fine, tax the other billionaires if you want to. I don't think they're up to that much good for the planet. Elon, at least, though, is. And so my amendment would be to exempt Elon from this stupid tax.
Well, and so, right, you're getting into a very, political, ideologically based concept, right? And so one concept could be that, like, this wealth should be democratically shared among everybody. The other idea would be that businessmen like Elon is creating value and wealth to the whole society. So it's a very socialism versus capitalism kind of attacky thing. But I would argue that there is a middle ground here.
Oh, there's definitely a middle ground here. The only
it's just
reason
that it's that Elon really is breaking the convention of capitalism in a way that doesn't help the argument of socialists.
Right. He's actually doing a very socialist thing. He's doing something to benefit mankind.
Right. It's just in a way that we don't usually think of. It's because we usually are very terrestrial beings. We're just usually thinking about what's going on here on Earth, or what's going on in my country or my state or my city or my community. We're not typically thinking about, hey, in I don't know, anywhere from 50 to a million years, what if we all die? That would be bad.
I just think that Bernie should have singled out. He had over 500 billionaires to choose from.
Right.
I think he should have singled out some billionaires that really don't care about anything but themselves.
And
He
don't
shouldn't have
do
picked
any
on the
good.
one humanitarian billionaire who's always caring about people. Let's not forget when, Detroit was having a problem with their water, who came in with this Elon Musk Foundation and helped pay for people to get drinking water?
Yeah, but you could argue it's just a political stunt, a PR stunt, you know?
He barely got any press for it. It wasn't, it was to help people. He
Sure, but
cares
you
about
can argue
people.
that. I'm just saying,
You can argue it all you want, but
Right.
what I'm saying is time and time again, Elon does things that help people. When Puerto Rico lost power, who went down there and set up solar systems to make sure that
Right.
hospitals and schools were back up and running?
And ultimately, the goal of Tesla is to accelerate the world to more sustainable energy.
Exactly.
That is a pretty noble goal, especially in the face of global climate change, which was, before the global pandemic, the biggest thing that we were worried about. It was the thing that I think we had been making a lot of strides and gains towards. I don't know if the pandemic has been helping or hurting us in terms of whether or not we are making those same strides that we were before.
I just think that, Bernie, by calling out Elon, means that now Elon is going to respond. He's big on Twitter. He did respond. Check out this tweet right here where he's got a nice little meme going for Bernie.
Right.
And then they got into it. Little fisticuffs here, where Elon said, first Bernie pointed out that Elon Musk's growing empire is fueled by $4.9 billion in government subsidies. First question is, Bernie, you approved most of those government subsidies, which were to help the electric car industry and so forth to get going. So weird that you're now saying he shouldn't have taken advantage of a rule that you enacted. Secondly, Elon said this bull was published by oil and gas interests to distract people from the $5 trillion per year they receive in subsidies. Bernard Sanders is a docile puppet of big oil.
Which, and again, I'm flipping back and forth between who I'm defending here. I think he is kind of being a little hyperbolic to be.
Bernie had a choice
He
what
did have a
article he
choice.
wanted to tweet.
And
and
it's pretty fair. It's a fair point.
and then Elon went on to say, and why aim your attacks at Tesla when we are doing more than any other company on Earth to advance green, sustainable energy? Have you read the news?
Well, and here is the other point here. Let's say Tesla had done a nosedive. Let's say they were up, in January, they were up at about $1,000 a share. And everyone was going like, whoa, $1,000 a share. And then something awful happened. I don't know, maybe some kind of global pandemic or something. And let's say the stock price tanked and they were back down to $200 a share. They wouldn't have any of these paper gains.
Right.
So Elon wouldn't have to pay pretty much anything. Because he didn't have any growth.
Well, Bernie got to pick his little, in and out points and then basically say you have to pay on these paper gains. That, to me, I don't like that whole aspect of it.
And it's not that we're against taxation here.
No.
It's that...
here's the main thing. I would like to focus on what would really make a difference, which is getting money out of politics. You can pick on billionaires all you want. If you get money out of politics, they've lost all their political power because then
corporations.
Or the billionaires which control those corporations.
Right, yes.
Because then, no matter how much money you have, you can't be more powerful than me. My vote is just as important as Elon's at that point.
Right.
Whereas when their money is in politics, meaning they're allowed to have PACs and they're allowed to spend all the money they want, then I am nothing. My vote doesn't matter anymore much because
you're not lobbying. You're
I'm
not spending
lobbying.
millions of
right,
dollars.
you don't have to listen to me.
Right.
That change, Bernie, let's do that because then we can all, as the democracy here, the people of the country, we can then have say over our government. Not that we'll get it right all the time, but at least it'll be us, the people.
Right. And I would also argue that there are plenty of corporations that should be being taxed by the U.S. government
Exactly.
that don't get taxed.
Corporations have been able to write the tax code effectively, so now there's companies like Google that basically pay no tax. What? So that's why you have to go, 60% tax on these billionaires to make up for it. Why don't we just tax them regularly? Why do I pay more tax as a company than Google does? That makes absolutely no sense. So let's not talk around the issue. Let's go right to the heart of the issue.
I think again that this is just a way to gain attention. You make a big headline by doing something big and boisterous and gets the conversation going, which we're having.
I'm just saying, though, if Bernie had reached out to Elon and said, "Hey, let's work on this together," I'll bet Elon would be for this. If he said, "Hey, let's make sure that all corporations are taxed the same as people are."
But it would weaken Bernie's argument if he were to say, except for this one billionaire
No,
who's
I'm
really
not saying
good.
that. No,
Because then you could go
I'm
like,
saying
oh, but
don't
what
go-
about Bill Gates? Oh,
I'm
what
saying
about
don't go after billionaires. Go after the system. Change the system.
Right.
This one-time tax, yeah, okay, let's say you did it. Boom. You got your money for 1 year. Then what?
right?
What did that do you?
All the billionaires would leave,
Right.
or they would find some way to
Or
protect
now
themselves
that
from
they
a
still
tax like that,
control
right?
our system, they would change the system back. It's a stupid way to do it. Elon went on to say
Well, and for all the support and stuff that we've poured into the economy, the trillions of dollars, some of that went to actual people, but a ton of it just went to corporations who had whole departments that were just ready
Yeah.
to file.
Oh,
for
you're talking
whatever
about
loans.
the PPP,
Oh yeah,
Paycheck Protection Act. Yeah, a lot of that money, as we're now just scratching the surface on this, we're finding out that companies got money that they shouldn't have gotten. It was supposed to go to small businesses to keep their payroll going. And a lot of this money went to the Catholic Church, for instance. Like, what?
right. And as we found out the hard way, when you go to your local bank to apply for this thing, smaller local banks don't have any people for this program. So when you're trying to apply for the Paycheck Protection Program to, have some stimulus money to continue to pay your workers, even if you're at a gigantic loss, because let's say you're a restaurant or something, your local bank that you've been using, they're like, yeah, we don't have anyone for that.
Yeah,
However,
it took them months to set up a guy in an office to be able to handle this. Whereas the bigger multinational banks, they are immediately on this because they're like, money. Because did you know that to apply for this, you can't go to some website and apply. You have to go to your bank to apply for it. And the bank gets money for every single loan given out. What? The money went through the banks. So I don't know. It's 2020. I thought you could go to the IRS website or whatever department and apply for it there. You can't.
right. So it's stuck through the.
Oh, and when you applied for the loan, there were no terms as to what the payback was. So you were applying for a loan not knowing how the payback would work. Only now are they coming up with the paperwork to show whether or not you pay it back and what rules there were. So you were applying for a loan with no terms.
And you didn't know if you were going to have to pay it back or not. So that
The
would
big
prevent-
players, they knew because
that they would never have to pay that money back ever. They knew that.
I talked to many small business owners who said, "I'm not applying for this loan because
I don't know the terms.
I don't know the
Or
terms."
They would apply for it, get the money, and then just hold on to it, not put it into the economy because they didn't know if they were going to have to pay it back.
Right.
They wouldn't want to pay it back and then be like, great, now I'm in debt.
Right.
That's not what I wanted to do.
Right.
That's not, but I don't see the terms, so how could I possibly just go spending money that I might need to pay back to someone?
Exactly. It's basically a scam. And it just happened so fast that no one's had a chance to really dig into it and talk about it. I think over the years to come, we're going to realize that a lot of this money went to the wrong places. It was supposed to be for small businesses, yet we're finding out now that big corporations got it.
Right. And now this is that stuff wasn't like all Bernie's fault or
No.
anything. This is like the government at large.
Although part of the CARES Act, a lot of that money went to fighter planes and other things that have
Right.
nothing to do with caring for small businesses or people.
Right.
Elon went on to say, over time, since we give all employees shares of Tesla stock, my ownership is diluted automatically. From the first financing round, where I owned about 60% of Tesla, to today at about 20%, it has declined by a factor of 3. And then Kristen said, could you fold yourself into a pretzel to just please everyone? And Elon laughed. Yeah, because basically we're asking Elon to continually do stuff. He is doing stuff.
Well,
And I just wanted to come to his defense because I'm tired of the left attacking him, the right attacking him. Everyone's attacking him because he's trying to do something noble, but it doesn't fit most other, it doesn't profit other people.
right. And it also doesn't fit any kind of narrative that you're used to. You're used to billionaires being big fat cats with the big cigars, and they're laughing, ha, 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 and they're playing golf. Meanwhile, Elon's sleeping at the floor of his factory, working his butt off. He said in a recent interview that he basically, when the shutdown happened, he was still working every day.
On the floor of the factory.
Right. He is constantly working. And, it's not so that he can just get rich. Yes, he has a lot of money on paper, which means that he has a lot of money in Tesla stock. And tomorrow he could sell some of it. And yeah, he did get that big tranche as part of his compensation package, but he can't sell those stocks for 5
Exactly.
years.
Exactly.
So all of this wealth that he's accumulated, a lot of it he doesn't actually have access to. He's actually been borrowing money, with the security. Actually been borrowing money off of that, some of those stocks, mostly just so he can pour it back into the companies and help the companies grow.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to point out in the United States right now, guess how many factories there are? Well, I'll give
10,000?
you a hint.
1 million.
China has over 8 million.
Okay. In the U.S.,
How many in the U.S.?
5 million.
250,000. And it's going down every year. So along comes Elon saying, hey, let's start building mega factories. Let's start building stuff again. Good things, clean things.
That and stuff that we're not going to be shipping overseas,
Right.
Because he's going to be building factories in all of those continents
Right.
as well.
I'll build a factory where we need the thing. I won't
Right.
just get cheap labor for some place. If we're making it in Europe, I'll make a factory there.
Right. If I'm going to make things in China, we're not selling them in the United States. We're
Right.
selling them in China.
So he wants to build up factories. And along comes everyone in the world who's like, why is this guy getting a break and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Most billionaires stay quiet. They don't have Twitter accounts, and they don't tweet things out, and they stay behind their walls and their fences, and you never
and they
hear
have
about
people
them.
for that.
Yeah, you don't know any billionaires, right? I mean, I bet right now, sit down and just hold up your hand, try and count, say the names of 5 billionaires. You'll get Jeff Bezos and you'll get Elon Musk. Those two are
not
for
the
free.
ones that you'd know personally.
Yeah, no, just
The
that
ones that
you
you
know
can
the
name.
names
Okay.
of. So those are 2 I'm giving you for free. Can you fill out 3 more?
Warren Buffett,
Okay.
the guy who helped with the big battery in Australia, Michael Cannon Brooks.
I don't know if he's a billionaire. He might be.
I think he is.
I think his company's worth that, but I don't think he is. But okay,
Well, I
I'll
mean,
even
but
give you
on
that
paper.
one.
Okay.
Fine, 4.
Bill Gates.
Yeah, there you go. 5. Okay, so that's it. You can only name 5.
That's all I got, really. Yeah.
Right. There's over 500 of them just in this country. You would think, oh, they're billionaires. We should all know their names. Right?
Right.
If I asked you to name 5 presidents or ball players or anything, you could do it easily.
And I also remember when I was a kid, I thought that the billionaires were the people that I saw on TV. So I thought that Brad Pitt was a billionaire.
Mhm.
I thought that George Clooney was a billionaire.
Right.
I forget, all the movie stars. I thought they were the billionaires. And
Right.
That's why we liked them.
Nope.
No,
Right.
because they actually have a craft.
Right. I'm just saying, billionaires know that they should shut up, just hide behind the scenes and have their minions do their work. Elon is out there. He's on the floor of his factories. Name me another billionaire who's on the floor of his factories during a pandemic, or any time for that matter.
Right. When he's not giving a tour. Here we are, as you can see. Please give me some money.
That's why I defend the guy, because
Right.
don't lump him in with billionaires. And Bernie, that's my advice to you, is work with Elon. He's much more valuable as an ally than tweeting out against him of how he's this awful representation of what's gone wrong in America. He's exactly what's right about what's going on in the world.
Right.
All right, let's get to this. Let's talk about TikTok for a second.
So, a lot of people in the comment section are always attacking us because they're like, "You're trying to take our jobs. You're saying that the oil company is going to go out of business and that's going to get rid of all these people's jobs." I don't know who these people are. I don't know if these are people who actually work in the oil industry or if they're just people who care about jobs. My guess is the latter, because I just want you to take a look at this video.
Okay,
Do
so
you want?
wait a minute. So what's that guy doing?
He is drilling for oil. So they're taking 1 casement, so it's that big pipe sticking out of the ground, and they're screwing on a new casement, and then they're going to drill that deeper into the ground so that they can get to the oil.
And this wasn't like a contest, like to see how fast
This
you
wasn't
could
a
do it. This is just an
contest.
average day.
This wasn't like an emergency. This is what happens every day.
This-
You can look online. The exact same procedure. I was looking for this video to find it again. There are many videos that look pretty much exactly like this.
So if you just saw it briefly and you're like, I don't know, okay, sure, guy's getting dirty doing some work. No, look at it again.
watch the chains.
Do you see the chains?
Yeah.
Those chains could easily, within a millisecond, take off a finger or hand
or an eye
or an eye. Like when that chain at the end
or a leg?
rips,
Yeah.
that chain hitting you could break a bone or take your eye out, no problem. It could
Right.
definitely take your hand or fingers off, no problem. And he's doing that. He must be doing that hundreds of times a day.
Right, because that's not like, okay, we did that thing and now we're done for the day. It's over and over and over again
Yeah,
because
'cause-
you have these long casements. They're going to be,
Yes.
driven down into the ground.
Right. So 20 or 30 feet of casement, then you do another one and another one and another one because you're going down 3, 4, 5, 600, whatever, thousands of feet
Yep.
down to the ground. So that's his job all day long. Great. It's hard. I'm not saying that's the part I'm worried about here. What I'm worried about is we've set up an industry where it is so dangerous that it's got to be that these people are getting injured all the time. And when you're getting injured, it's not like, oh, a bruise. Oh, I bruised my arm.
Right.
It's that you're taking off fingers.
Or you're losing teeth, or you're losing eyes, or you lose, yeah.
And obviously, this wasn't like, okay, slow down, everybody.
Or
Let's-
you're put
let's-
up, or you're out of commission for
Right.
weeks at a time because you've broken your ribs or
Right.
something. Like it's not. Oh, I got a splinter. It's not. Oh, I got a paper cut, or even like I fell down and
But
hurt
here's
myself.
the thing: before social media, I've never seen anything like that. I've never seen this. Like I've seen people working this job, but I've never seen the real person working this job.
Right.
I've seen like promo videos or industry videos where it's like,
or like movies where the guy like puts the shovel in the ground and the oil starts
Right.
spilling out and he goes yeehaw. Right, we've seen that.
if Jesse and I were sitting here right now telling you that solar was like this and that you would have to have people doing this to put in solar, you would be like, what, are you crazy?
Yeah, this is not good. You should not be doing that.
But yet we tell you that we should switch to renewable energy, which is clean and safe for everybody, including the installers. And people are like, no, but you're taking away our jobs. We want to do this.
Right. I don't understand it. I really don't get it. I think that, and here's the other cool thing. If we do away with the oil industry, we have more jobs in renewable energy
Yeah.
right now than we do in all of the fossil fuel industry.
Yeah.
There are more jobs
Yep.
in green energy. That's just a fact.
They're better jobs.
They're better jobs. You get to be out in the sunshine because that's where the frickin' solar is.
Yeah.
You're not going to be down in a coal mine, which we didn't even show the coal mining stuff.
Right.
You're not going to be drilling for oil. You're going to be like up on a wind turbine. How cool would that be?
All right, let's go to the story in Switzerland because if you do this this oil job, you could very well need one of these. This is a story about a funeral home that has 2 converted Tesla Model S's. They are converted into Lickenwagens or hearses.
And so that would mean that your last ride in the world could be free of fossil fuels.
Yeah, because generally your first ride into the world is free of it. If you think about it.
Is it?
Yeah. You know? It's clean.
Is it?
Yeah.
Your
There's no
father
fossil fuels.
driving your mother to the hospital
In an electric
in
car.
the back of a taxi? I don't know.
It could be. This could be your last one.
Yeah. So this is a very interesting video here.
So wait, we're out in the middle of a field.
Yes.
Or no, not. It's just like a desert.
Yes. This is out in Arizona.
Okay.
This is the site of Nikola Motor Company, the factory.
There's
right
no,
there.
There's no
See it?
factory there.
Well, you see, so Jessica went out to the site where they had the event for the Nikola Motor Company. And let's just play just a little bit of it.
Good morning. Welcome to Coolidge, Arizona. It's my pleasure to welcome you here today.
What we do here today, if we are successful together, will be in the history books someday. Because one of the hardest challenges we're going to have to solve as a species on this planet is how to stop digging up and burning fossil fuels to power our lives.
We will be the first OEM that we know of to hit the market with a 300+ mile zero-emission semi-truck. We've assembled one of the best teams in the world, and that's what's helped us get here so fast. We could not be here without the best industry partners in the world. So today's a big day. We get to break ground on our factory, and it's built out on these 400 plus acres here. We're going to be building over 35,000 trucks a year out of this place. Thousands of new jobs helping the community. And when I had a chance to choose where we were going to put this, this is the town we chose on purpose.
Oh, so they broke ground for the factory.
Right. And
Okay.
then they left. They took all their trucks and stuff that were there, and they left.
Wait, so how long after they left did she show up?
So this was 5 days after the event. Now, at the event, Trevor, the guy who runs Nikola, said construction begins today. So maybe that was them digging with the golden shovels. But then nothing else happened. In fact, you can see those stakes in the ground that were kind of like part of the event that were holding up the things. They're still there 5 days after
Whereas
the event.
in Austin, 5 days after the event, you've got,
There was
hundreds
no
of
event.
trucks.
They just freaking started building.
Right. I mean, right. They didn't stick ceremonial shovels in the ground. They
Right.
just sent trucks out to start doing the stuff.
Right.
So, what's your point there? What are you saying?
I can't say too much because
You worried about a lawsuit or something?
Nikola has been suing pretty much anyone who doesn't
Yeah.
say nice things about them.
You know why? It's a very common technique. If you sue someone for speaking out, pretty soon news organizations are like, let's not cover that story.
Right. Now, there are plenty of other reasons why some people conjecture to say that perhaps, maybe, Nikola Motors is allegedly a potentially maybe fraud, but this doesn't help Nikola's argument, allegedly. There. I think I'm pretty covered. I'm no
Maybe.
lawyer, but I think that I've completely either confused you or protected myself legally.
All right, let's move on since we can't even talk about that anymore. According to a new report from the World Resources Institute, 41 states in the United States have cut their CO2 emissions between 2005 and 2017 while still increasing their GDP. So I just wanted to point out some good news here that we actually are shifting to cleaner renewable energy. Much of this reduction came by cutting the burning of coal. Many states have turned to burning natural gas instead, which has a lower CO2 footprint. So not perfect. I'm not saying that natural gas was the better way to go. It's better than coal, I guess, but at least it's transitioning towards something better. You still have to drill it out
Air
of the ground.
pollution, maybe,
Yep.
for natural gas, but CO2 is a deceiving number for natural gas, again, because the natural gas can just kind of escape, float up
True.
into the atmosphere where it's methane, because that's what natural gas is, it's methane, which is a worse greenhouse gas than CO2 itself. So it's actually better to burn natural gas than it is to let it leak out into the atmosphere, but it'll leak out.
But let's look at this map here for a second. If you look at the east coast of the United States, all of that is blue, and that's showing that we have the biggest reduction in CO2. And that's pretty amazing because just up until recently, a lot of those states are coal states, and you would have seen a lot of, increasing CO2. But even those states are realizing that coal is not the way to go. So I just think we should take a victory lap every now and then when we, even a couple years ago on Tesla Time News when we were talking about coal, it seemed like, we're not going to get rid of coal anytime soon.
Right.
And we're very quickly getting rid of it.
Basically, as soon as we started reporting on it, they all started closing.
All right, let's go to another story. This is about how beer powers homes.
Sounds like a bad advertisement. Sounds like a Budweiser commercial. Did you know that beer powers homes? Broken homes? I don't know. It doesn't sound very good to me. What are you talking about?
South Australia's Glenning wastewater treatment plant has been taking 150,000 liters of stale beer from closed pubs and restaurants every week and mixing it with sewage sludge to make biogas. Now, according to
Gross.
Euronews,
That's the grossest statement I've ever heard. Gross.
well, maybe gross, but that's how you make biogas, which is basically methane. According to Euronews, as a result, the plant has seen renewable energy generation boosted to 654 megawatt hours in a single month. So normally, the plant generates enough biogas from its normal operations, because basically they're in the waste business anyway, to power about 80% of its wastewater operations. But in the past few months, with the added beer, it has been able to export power for about 1,200 homes to be powered by biogas.
So not only can it be powering this wastewater treatment plant, it can also be powering homes.
Exactly. And that's how beer powers homes.
So
But now the bad news is that this wasn't, this was beer that went stale because nobody got a chance to drink it because the restaurants were closed, and that's sad. But at least it didn't go to waste. It got turned into something.
well, it did go into waste.
It went into waste.
but it turned that waste into biogas.
Yep.
Thanks, biome, little microbes
Little
breaking
bacteria.
breaking down the sludge, turning it into Bernie stuff.
Yep.
Cool.
Now, let's talk about BP, British Petroleum. They had a huge loss last quarter, $16.8 billion, and they were forced to cut their dividend by 50%. So just think about this for a second. For the longest time, you'd put your money into oil stocks, and you were assured of getting nice growth and dividends. Dividends.
When you invest tuppence wisely in the bank, safe and sound. And,
Okay, well, that's as far as I could go without forgetting it.
Copyright. Or copyright.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair.
So BP announced that they will cut oil and gas production by at least 1 million barrels a day by 2030. That is a 40% reduction over today's production. And they'll invest $5 billion a year into green energy. So CNN reports BP's plan to pivot away from oil after a century of exploration will involve major investments into bioenergy, hydrogen, and carbon capture and storage. It is also targeting 70,000 electric vehicle charging points, up from the 7,500 at present. At the same time, BP will reduce its oil and gas refining portfolio and aims to raise $25 billion by selling assets over the next 5 years.
Okay.
So-
I hate to be the guy who says that $5 billion is not enough money.
Yep. You're right, though.
$5 billion is
pocket change.
It's not enough money.
I hear you.
You might think, Jesse, $5 billion, you can't even imagine how much money that is. Not true. I've been dealing with billions of dollars on this show for quite a while, so I kind of understand what $1 billion can buy you.
Right.
$1 billion can buy about 1 gigawatt of peak of solar.
Mhm.
It's a big solar field, 1 gigawatt. So $5 billion a year for 10 years. It's a lot, 50 gigawatts. That's not anything to scoff at.
Nope.
But I don't know. It's just not enough investment. It
Right.
sounds really good, and it's something that they're going to need to do anyway.
Right.
But they're not doing it fast enough, in my opinion.
Nope.
So, I mean, that's not to say that they have more money.
But it is amazing. I just wanted to
Oh,
stop
yeah.
for a second and be like, if I had told you at the beginning of Tesla Time News a few years ago
Yep.
that, BP, they're going to stop investing in oil and gas. In fact, they're going to sell some of that assets. You would have been like, no.
They're like, no
that's
way.
crazy
They're going to
talk."
keep exploring.
Right. So
Which
the
they
fact
do,
that
but-
they're losing money now is, and that they're shifting gears and they're focusing on this. Imagine, if you will, a day when BP is in the solar business. When they're,
It's called British Power instead of
yeah,
British
they're gonna
Petroleum.
have to change their name exactly. Anyway, I'm just we gotta look at the things that we're winning at. We can't always just look at the loss. There's a shift going on as we speak, and it's a slow. It might be like a slow chug for some people,
Right.
but it's happening
Well,
faster
and it's
than we
going to
think.
be a hard one to see right now because everyone's pretty much stuck where they are.
Right.
There's not a lot of travel where you get to see things that are happening in the world. So we're really lucky that we're able to learn about these things that are going on in the world, so that way when we someday
Well, and,
who knows,
and speaking of
reemerge.
that,
Yeah.
we are looking for reporters. So if you
Right.
are out there, especially if you have a YouTube channel, so if you already have some skills in terms of knowing how to film, because it takes some skill to know how to tell a story
you can
and
Google it.
Well, you can Google it, but I mean, you got to practice it to get good.
Sure,
so,
sure.
Either maybe you had been thinking about it, and now we're giving you an opportunity here. But basically, we're looking for reporters. You can live anywhere in the world; doesn't matter. There's stories going on everywhere, and you don't have to report like every day. Like we're not going to lock you in. It kind of depends on you.
Mhm.
Depends on what kind of stories you have. But reach out to me, Zach@nowyouknowchannel.com, if you're interested, and tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me, hey, I'm in the solar industry, or I'm in this industry, and I'd love to tell you about this, that, and the other thing. We'd be looking for about 2-minute long stories, and as you saw with like the Anderson brothers this week, we can put you on the air. And I haven't rented a Revel scooter,
Right.
They
'cause
have.
Right. And I mean, when we started like the video contributor story section, we had really been putting on a big push. This was way back when we probably had like 60,000 subscribers, and we were like, we can have people come in. There weren't as many people watching the show at the time. So it was harder and harder to find people, but it got easier and easier as we've been growing. And plus, there's a bigger bonus to being on a channel that has over 200,000 subscribers.
Right.
Because we're gonna hopefully allow more people eyeballs to get on.
Well, I mean, let's talk about our buddy Jeff. He's got a YouTube channel where he started showing drone shots of the Giga Austin, and we were like, yeah, we'll show your videos on our channel. He's gotten, like, he has thousands of subscribers now in just a couple weeks.
Yeah,
That's
he
awesome.
grew a lot faster than we did.
Right.
Gosh darn it.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's great. I mean, that's exactly what we want. We want people who are telling awesome stories that normally we wouldn't know about. We wouldn't know what's going on at Giga Texas.
Right.
We'd have to wait for some press release.
Right, and we can't do all of it.
No.
So yeah, we totally want that.
It's a community.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for being a part of it, and thank you for supporting us, because we can't do Tesla Time News and In Depth and interviews and going out to see. Ooh, you haven't even seen the turtle interview.
Oh, yeah, that's coming up.
So it's a little weeding robot, weeds your garden for you, which is going to be really fun. Completely solar powered, by the way.
Yeah.
We can't do it without your support. So thank you. Give yourself a pat on the back. If you're sitting next to someone else, have them give you a pat on the back, and just tell them to do that. Don't even give them any context. Just say, pat me on the back. See how that goes. I don't know. And then comment down below. Let us know how that went, Thank
Don't
you.
forget to use the new code word dragon that we've been using
Old
for the
code
past.
word.
Well, it's old now, but keep
Keep
using it.
Dragon. It lets us know that you're a Patreon supporter, so that way we, try to prioritize getting back to you if you message us on Facebook or email. And
see you next week.
See you next week. Now you know.